I'm now making a screencast, which I'll send you later. And my mic is still working, so that's good. All right, so step number 1, you find the location where you installed from your PAF file, your portable archive file. Where did it deposit SQLite DB Browser? Now I have it. Now I double click on it to run it. And now I want to make a new database, right? So I click up there on new database. Please follow along with me. And I'm going to call it the college enrollment system. Now look here. It is going to create something of .db, which is try again, Peter, of type database. This is the file which we're going to be connecting to when we do our Node.js stuff. So I get the feeling I should probably go ahead and make my working directory for my Node program right now. Okay, so I can do that. That's not hard. So I'm going to go to my C drive, and I'm going to make a high-level folder because I don't want to put a bunch of directories to find it, right? Because that's something you might mess up or something. So we'll say college enrollment system. And remember that, because if I forget, you have to remind me if when I go into Node, because when you're organizing a class, you have a lot going on in your mind. So everybody remember, and hopefully you're going to create the same thing and follow me. So I go into that directory. What do I want to call it? Doesn't make too much of a difference. I'll call it CES for College Enrollment System.db. And now I need to make a table. What table? That's why I did unified process. That's why I started thinking about my use cases. What do I want to do? Students can self-enroll and remove themselves and add themselves to classes, and they can display their schedule. And remember I said that it's going to be something only the administrator can create new students after they've made sure fees are paid. So these are little details, but if you're not clear on them, you might now be very confused what you're doing. So here I said I probably want a table called students. So I'll go back and refer to that to make sure I don't get something wrong. So I want students. And I want classes, and I want enrollments. I want 3 things. And if I have those 3 things, I can pretty much get myself up and going here. So let's make students, and there actually it's giving me my field names as well. So I'll say students. I'll keep everything lowercase. Sometimes in some versions of SQL it's case sensitive. Peter's rule is keep it all lowercase and save your brain some confusion. Now name, add field, so I want student ID. And I know a lot of students have an overwhelming temptation to make this numeric. I'm going to suggest you make everything text. Why? Because when we start creating our relations, when we say students.studentID equals enrollment.studentID, if one of them is numeric and one of them is text, it will not work. And Peter's idea is only make it numeric if you're going to do mathematics on it, right? If it's maybe their GPA and I want to average over the whole class, then I will go with float. But I'm going to keep everything text unless I have a big reason to do otherwise. So here I will say text, right? So blob, binary large object. That's if you want an image or an MP3 file. Real is a real number. It gives you the highest level of precision. And numeric is what they call float. And integer is just without decimal. So I'm going to go with text. Do I want it to be a primary key? Yes. And you see down here, it is actually showing me my SQL statement. So later on, if I want a quick tool to smith up, to generate up SQL statements so I can copy and paste them into Node.js, I can use the DB browser as a quick tool to do that. But I guess that's enough for right now. I don't think of anything else I need to do here. So next I want to add another field, and I want to say student name. See, it keeps showing me what it's generating. So if I wanted to write a program to do this programmatically, I could copy and paste this out. So here I say student name. And once again, that's going to be text. It's not going to be a primary key. And the other thing I wanted was what? Program ID, which will also make text. But Peter, I hear you saying, the program ID is an integer. Yeah, for now. Maybe later the program ID will be CSAT _1 _2020 summer. So make it text since I don't need to do math on it. So here I'm going to say add field program ID. And that's also text. Whoops. And that is it for students. No more. All right, good. So say OK to create the table. And see, now I have a table there. And now I can go and put some data into it. So if I wanted to modify the table, meaning add or remove fields or make something else primary, I could do it there. And now I want to go and add some data in. So with students selected, I go up here. See, I could execute the SQL as well. But I have an option here for putting data in. Browse data. Oh, that shows me what's there. Execute SQL. Actually, let me go and make my other tables first. There is a graphical tool for putting in data, but we're going to be good programmers. We're going to write a DML, data manipulation language. We're going to use insert statements because we have to do that in Node.js, so why not get into the practice of doing it now? So now my next table is going to be classes. So I'm going to say create table, classes. And field, so I have class ID. Actually, I made a mistake. I made that uppercase. I'll go and fix that later. And that's text. And that's primary key. And I have course name and date time. Guys, just a second. I think I hear some dripping because there was a guy here fixing some plumbing. You guys try and finish this up by yourself on your own station. I'm just going to see if he maybe like dork things up or something. I'll be back in a second. All right, let's get back to it. Yeah, he dorked something up. I need to get him back. The leak is still dripping. All right, so my audio is still good, so fine. All right, so let's go back to this. Text can't be auto-incremented. Thank you, Jaspreet Singh. Thank you for paying attention. That's good. So I actually missed something. So I'm going to go and fix that. So kudos to Jaspreet for catching that. So here we're going to say, yeah, the ID should definitely be integer, and we want auto-increment. So we do want that, and we need to go and fix up students as well. Well, in the real world, students would be assigned their student ID by the office, right? But I mean, I guess you could say the class ID would be, just to make it simple, we're going to make all our things auto increment. Good. So thank you for catching that. Great. So now here, I have class ID, course name, date, time. That dripping is really irritating. And I need instructor ID and room ID. So instructor ID. And room ID. And notice I'm keeping everything lowercase to avoid problems when I do my join ups. And class ID is there, and it's auto increment. And let me go back and fix up my students table. So I'll right click and say modify. You want to save all pending changes? Sure. So modify. And ID, as Jaspreet pointed out, must be integer, and we want to go on auto increment for that. Great. And here I'm going to change student name to make it lowercase, because I don't want to have to keep remembering when I'm joining that to something else what's uppercase. And similarly, program ID will say modify and make it lowercase. All right, students, I think are okay now. And classes, I think are okay. And now my one more that I need is enrollments. I haven't done enrollments yet, have I? So we'll say enrollments. And we have enrollment ID. And that's integer, auto increment, and also primary key. See, it jumped to primary key as soon as I clicked on that. And enrollments also wants to know about student ID and program ID. So enrollments, say modify, wants to know about student ID. Now pay attention. Student ID is an integer in the student table. It must be an integer here. Your joins will not work if it's not. But it's already integer, so that's good. And similarly, class ID, which also must be integer, so that's fine. Now, what you could see in the real world, in an enrollment table, they could have additional fields. There could be something for comments, right? Like maybe the student, I don't know, they have some special requirements or whatever. Maybe they have some wheelchair, they need accessibility or something. Or you could also put a date timestamp when the enrollment was generated. In the real world, on a commercial basis application where we're really doing this at work, we would probably put logging in our enrollment. And similarly for students, you could have comments for classes or something. But for right now, we just want to get the simplest thing to make our Node.js environment work. Now let's go back and double check me to see if there's anything else I messed up on. You can help me fix it. So students, make sure that's primary key auto increment. Yeah? Oh, and program ID should be integer, right? So I messed up on that one too. So here, classes. Class ID is integer, good. And what was the other one? Did I do all of them now? Classes, students. Well, if I made a mistake, the worst is I can come back and fix it later. Now let's go and put some data in here, right? So let's put at least 3 students in. So we could use a graphical user interface, but that's not what real programmers like us do. Let's practice our ability to write some basic SQL. such as we will be doing under Node.js program control. So you see here, I have the ability to execute SQL. So here, let's just start by doing a simple SQL practice. So I will say select star from students, and then I'll execute that. Well, actually, I run it here. Find text, find or replace text. Oh, that's nice. For a free product, this is amazing. I have actually bought software things like, what was that one I bought a few years ago that kind of wasn't worth the money? And you get a lot more in SQLite than they're giving you for money. So we run this, and you see it's 0 because there's no students there. Now, I want everybody to work by yourself because you all have this file, right? I want you to create these 3 students. So Mary, who's in mobile apps, and John, who's in CSAT, and Susan and Joe. So create those people right now. Do not for right now enroll them in classes because that's going to be a separate thing we do later on. So how do we create Mary in program group MAD? So here we can say, can I make, oh, sorry. Guys, I thought I could spin this to make it bigger, but it seems I can't. But I'll write it in Notepad so you can type along with me, and then we'll just copy and paste it over at the end. And in terms of your project, even things like your SQL statements, why not put them in your GitHub, right? All of your project assets, just have it in GitHub, right? Then it's one thing in everything. So here I'm going to say insert into students. And I'm not going to insert student ID because I'm letting the system do that. So here I'm going to say student name, and I went all lowercase, and program ID. Student name, program ID. And we said that Mary, the name is Mary. And she's in the mobile apps team. So let's just run this one little bit and find out if it works. By the way, another thing which you would actually really do in the real world, and if we have time today or else we'll do it at the start of day tomorrow, I gave you some real estate data. I'm going to show you how we import that real estate data into SQLite, because in the real world, if you're doing a database project for a company and maybe they have 10,000 warehouse records they want in the database, you're not going to sit and retype them. You're going to say, give me your data in an Excel sheet, and then in a couple of seconds you can import it all in. So that's the way this would be. And we're going to do the thing with the real estate data to just show you that procedure. All right, so let's try running this SQL statement and see how we make out. Just that dripping is bothering me. I'm just going to put a towel or something there to quell the noise. It's distracting my concentration. Hang on. All right, hopefully that'll fix that up. All right, let's get back to work. So now I'm going to, and you guys have probably already done this because it's not hard. So we'll say copy, and we'll go to our tool, and now we'll say paste. And I can have multiple lines in one SQL window if they're separated by a semicolon. So I have semicolons, so I should be able to run this whole thing. In fact, let's do a select at the end so we can see the effect of my insert. And let's say run. Oh yeah, so you see here in your middle window, hopefully that's working for you. You're now getting the current status of your database. So I'm going to go and start putting my SQL in a GitHub, and I'm going to invite you to do the same thing. And if when you're working on your project or something, you need to refer to MySQL, it's there. So that's a good habit to always maintain your assets in GitHub. So I'll call it, if you want to come and refer to it later, it's a computational knowledge. We'll say SQL for college enrollment system. And I'll just say SQL snippets 1 for now. And if anybody does want that, I mean, I know this is pretty trivially simple, but if it helps you, there's the link to my repo. So now let's do our other students here. So we have John in CSAT. And we have Susan in CPCT. So if you're going to have multiple lines, remember the semicolon. So that's, see how nice it is that you planned everything out in advance. It's really worth the effort of doing that. Please do that for your own sake of making it easier. As well, if it's easy and laid out, then you're not going to make mistakes. So Susan is in CPCT. PCT. And Joe is in mobile. So we have another good mobile team member there. All right, I guess that should be it for everybody. So let's grab that. And I'm going to select everything because the way it works, just like in Oracle, if you select one line, it'll run. So I just always select all of them. And I say run. And now I have my students table there. So that's good. Hopefully everybody was fine with that. So you guys get where this is going, right? When we bring this into Node.js land, we're going to have a form on the web page, and the user is going to type in information, and then the way we're going to push this over to our database, we will still put a SQL string in there, and we'll attach it to the database reference, as we will see. I don't know if you guys did this in Java or not. If you did, it's the same thing, and if you didn't, then what you're doing here you can do in Java too. And the values are going to get, the values are going to get replaced. All right, so we have our students now working by yourself. Go and finish it up for our other tables, which are classes. So go and hook up your classes. So here we'll say insert into classes. And the class is Java. Whoops, here I need the field name, sorry. So class ID is going to be auto incremented, so I'll go to course name and date time. And instructor ID, and I'm keeping it all lowercase, which I should update my design document to reflect that, I guess. So course, date, time, instructor ID, and room ID. So here we have Java. Now data is not case sensitive, right? So, well, actually, maybe I'll make all my data uppercase just to keep a consistent convention. And time is Monday AM. And instructor ID is Janelle. And room ID, just make something up, B105. So I'm going to test this one line to make sure it's okay, then I'll copy and paste it to the other ones. So I go back to my SQL window. So here I'll start by saying select star from classes. That's good. There's nothing there, but it did not return an error. If it returned an error, it would mean I typed in the table name incorrectly. So now let's do some data insertion. Good, so we have that one. You know what to do now. Do the other two. So I've already done, have I done anything yet? Yeah, I did Java, so I need to do the other two. So I need emerging tech. And that's Wednesday PM. And that's Amir. And we'll make it C106. And finally, me teaching math on Friday morning. So here we'll say math. Friday AM. Pietro, as Italian people call me. And A506. A506. All right. Well, that should be okay, I think. So I'm going to copy these. Oh, I probably don't want to duplicate the first one because that's going to give me duplicate records. Yeah, that's a duplicate, so I'll get rid of this. And I'll run this. Yay! Now I have 4 classes. So I'm going to dump this over into GitHub. So, oops. Oh, I didn't commit these changes. All right, well, I'll just add this in now. Okay, we're all together. I don't see any questions or comments. So I'll assume that means we're all happy so far. Now, where are we? What have we accomplished so far? Well, we have one more table to go, I think, which is enrollments. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're not going to be enrolling any students here. We're going to be enrolling them under program code control. But we still need to set up the skeleton of the table here. That's an administrative function. So let's do that. So our enrollments table has 3 fields. So let's go and do those things. So I'll make a table called enrollments. Save SQL file. Here's another thing you can do when you're doing this for your project. You can just save your SQL file into the directory where all your other stuff is. And probably for the hand-in for the project, I'm going to ask you to zip up all your files and submit the zip file to Dropbox. So for right now, I would say save every single thing you do. Then whatever I ask for at the end, you'll have it handy. So I'm going to go here. I'll stick in my college enrollment system. I'll just call it SQL file 1. .SQL. And I wanted to make another table, enrollments. So I go to database structure. You remember what to do, right? Create tables. I have classes, enrollment, students. Well, actually, I already have enrollments. Oh, I already have it. But I'm not going to put data there this way. I'm going to do that under Node.js. All right, gentlemen and ladies, boys and girls, we're doing good. We have about another 45 minutes roughly. So now we're ready to start going into Node.js space. So I'm going to close everything just to have less clutter going on in my desk. But the thing is, a SQLite database is a self-contained unit, right? I could send you my SQLite database, you could open it, and all of the stuff, all of the data structures, and everything else would be there. So that's pretty cool in my opinion. So I'll just close this for now. You want to save the... Yeah, close it to make sure all your changes are saved, please. I'm just going to go and update a couple of your project notes while I'm thinking about it. Because maybe near the end, you know, we're going to get kind of busy or tired or something. So I'm going to put it in your PowerPoint so everything is together. And then I will update the PowerPoint at the very end. So here I'll say a couple of notes regarding your project. And it's going to be the last couple of slides so everything is easy to find. Yeah, so hopefully you guys have all gotten that done. So what you're to hand in. Actually, let me go and give you the Dropbox link right now as well. Because I was going to do it this morning, but I tweaked up the labs a little bit based on things I was having people finding some issues with before. So I'm still recording. Actually, I guess I don't need to record anymore because now now I've showed you how to make these databases. Well, it's a 30